Okay, and it started to record. All right, so welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us, the ELUX, Ex Libris Users of Qatar group here. We're very honored to have with us today Emily Gouda, I think. Is that pronounced right, or Good?
It's actually Goody, like Goody Two Shoes.
Okay, I've been in Germany too many times.
Yeah.
So, but yes, Emily Goody is here, and she's the Director of Library Assessment at Georgetown University's Washington, D.C. campus. And we're very lucky to have her here today and got up bright and early to do the session for us. So I want to thank you for doing this and helping out our users group here, Emily. It's really great. So I'm going to hand it over to Emily now, and she's got tons of information to share with us on Alma Analytics. So thank you very much, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Robert. And I'm really glad to see everybody here this afternoon. This afternoon for you, this morning for me, but as a morning person, I got to tell you, this is my preferred time anyway. So awesome. I'm happy to be with you. I do have I have some background info, and then I have several examples that I hope we can walk through today. If you're more comfortable just watching and listening, feel free to do that. If you want to go step by step with me, that is also a possibility. And I have prepared, as Robert was mentioning earlier, a Google document that is open. In other words, if you have the link, you should be able to access it. So let me go ahead and put that in the chat. So this would be good for reviewing later on. This would be good for if I'm going like a little bit too fast, but you really want to follow along. The instructions I'm following this morning are in this document. So this is basically an outline of what I'll be presenting to you today. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see my Alma Analytics page, and I'll start from sort of the Alma login screen here, and we'll go from there. I want to also mention, like, this is a basic intro to Alma Analytics. So if you have some experience with Alma Analytics, some of this will be a review, although since we just went through the migration, a lot of this might look just slightly different. So it might also just be a good review, a good time to sort of familiarize yourself with what Alma Analytics looks like now. So from this Alma login screen, once you're in, instead of the top nav, the navigation is now at left, and analytics is the last little button here. For me, if you have different module access, your screen might look different. If you don't have an analytics button here, you'll need to talk to your Alma coordinator, whoever the person is at your institution, to help you get access to it. Once you have access to Alma Analytics, you have access to everything. You want design analytics permissions. That gives you, there's not like levels of access within it. So once you have access to design analytics permissions, that's what you would ask for from your Alma admin. And once you're in, you can run reports on any of the subject areas. So we'll go over those. And let's see. Let me blow this up a little bit. You all can still see my Alma Analytics, or sorry, my Alma screen?
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's go ahead into analytics. Once you push the button, then you'll click on Design Analytics. Make sure that you choose the top one and not Design Analytics Primo. We're not going to go over Design Analytics Primo today, but that's a whole other animal. It gets you analytics for Primo, as the name suggests. I don't know why they don't have Alma in a parenthetical there, but this is the one you want, the top one. And then once you're in, you'll be taken to your dashboard. I don't have anything on my dashboard at the moment, but let's just talk a little bit about some of the navigation options once you're into Alma Analytics. This is sort of how you get around, and we'll be spending a lot of time today with just two of these. So home sort of looks like this. It's a landing page. You can get off to your dashboard. It has your most popular items there. This has gotten slightly redesigned since the migration, but I don't think there's any major changes. The catalog is one that we will definitely be using today. This is how you get to my folders over here on the left and also the shared folders. So you'll need both of those. Favorites is just what it sounds like. You can favorite things and they'll go into a folder. Dashboard, same thing if you're into creating data visualizations. I tend to export to other systems and do my data viz, but to each her own. And then create. This used to, I believe, be a button that said new. So if you're using some old instructions for your institution that said click on new in Alma Analytics and then click on analysis, now you're going to click on create and then click on analysis. And I guess this would be a good time to mention that sometimes it's called a report. Like I'll refer to these as let's run a report. And in the instructions, they're called reports that you're running in Alma Analytics. It's not this report. These buttons just take you off to a page that gives you an error. So ignore them. Though to create a report, to create a fresh analysis, that's the terminology that you'll hear me saying, and that's the terminology you'll see in some of the support tools. So this is the button you'll want to create a new analysis. So we'll be working with that a lot today. And then open is kind of like going to catalog. It's just a direct, you can hop right into some of the reports that you've created. Okay, so with that, let me make sure that I have everything. Oh, I also just wanted to mention quickly, I don't need to spend too much time on this, but for folks who are brand new to Alma Analytics, it's a data warehouse as opposed to linking directly into the Alma system. These data are on a delay by up to 24 hours. And if you're on, I think if you're on this page and you hover over analytics, or maybe if I click on it, yeah, if you see at the bottom of my screen here, it says date available as of and date updated as of. That's because every morning or afternoon, it refreshes the whole system. So just keep in mind when you're looking at your data in Alma Analytics, you're looking at the data that are accurate as of yesterday for the most part. So keep that in mind so that, if you're wondering why data doesn't match or like you updated something in Alma and why isn't it showing up in analytics, give it a day. All right. So I think what we'll do is start looking at some of the subject areas in Alma Analytics. So let me come over here to catalog. So, oh, I'm sorry, let's go to create. So create is, again, where you go to start a new report, or as we call them in Alma Analytics, analysis. And so I'll click on analysis. And if you're doing this with me, if you're logged in, go ahead and click along. See what pops up. So in Alma Analytics, you'll get this subject area pop up. These subject areas don't correspond perfectly to those that are listed in Alma. Not sure why, but the best way to understand what's in a subject area is to talk to local data experts at your institution, because what we've done at Georgetown isn't the same as even what they've done at other institutions that are in our consortium. So George Washington University right down the road might have a different data structure than we do. And so we can collaborate on some things, we can share reports, but the way their data are structured might be different. So when they run their report, it might be different than what we see in our report. We might need to use a different metric. So it's great to collaborate, but always check with people. I go to my metadata people. When I'm looking at e-resources, I go to my e-resources people. Folks in access services have a lot of knowledge about the fulfillment subject area. So definitely communicate with your local subject area experts to make sure that when you're pulling a report, you're getting the best data possible for your institution. Oh, one other thing about the structure of the data, and this goes back to the data warehouse piece. The data that you'll see on my screen are the data for Georgetown. If you were to run a report that I have in a shared community folder, you would be using the structure of my report, but running it against your data. So when you save a report to a shared folder, you're saving the structure of the report, but not the data with it. So let me know if you have any questions about that. You could put them in the chat, or you can just turn off your mic and go ahead and ask. And let's see here. Today, we're going to be looking at the subject areas of, I want to say, physical items. I know we're definitely going to look at that one. And we're also going to look at funds expenditure. Fulfillment, I've used a lot. E-inventory, I've used a fair amount for pulling statistics for ARL, ACRL, and IPEDS. And let's see, I think we don't use course reserves so much, so I don't think we hop into there too much. And I guess we've used titles before, and probably users. So there's this, I point this out because it's a very long list and it can be intimidating, but just know that with a little bit of usage, you'll figure out what is important to you and your institution and your position. And it becomes more comfortable over time instead of just this long list of options. So I think we'll go ahead. Just want to make sure I'm not missing anything on my notes. Yeah, let's go ahead and start by looking at what a fresh report looks like. So I went to create and I went to analysis, and now I'm going to select the physical items subject area. So that's this one here, physical items. And it sort of pops up this blank canvas, which again can be intimidating. But once you get used to, you know, what are the fields that you most frequently need to look at, it starts to break it down and starts to feel a little more familiar. And this would also be a good time to mention that since I do a lot of work behind the scenes in the library, and I don't work with I'm not like a data expert in any one particular area, I did reach out to my subject area experts in the library to help me prepare for today's presentation. So just a shout out to Callie Johnston and Lauren Kanoki in Access Services and Vani Murthy, who provided reports for today's presentation. So let's go ahead and look at, I think I'm going to pull in some fields for you, but first I want to save my report. Let's do that first. Okay, so up here, one change I'm not super happy about is they grayed out all the icons, so it's harder to describe what the icons look like for actions in Alma Analytics, but this is save, and I think this is save as. So I'm just going to save this, and I think this will be our overdue items. So I'm going to go ahead and just call this overdue 2. The first one is my practice from yesterday or the day before. Okay, so I'll call this overdue 2, and then step by step, let's build it out. So once you've saved it, and I saved it, sorry, I went too fast there. You can save it in my folders or shared folders. If you save something in my folders, only you have access to it. If you save it in a shared folder, you and whoever else has access to that data set can not only look at the report, but can also change the report. So I always recommend save yourself a copy in my folders and then come back into save as and go to shared folder, or go to shared folders, put it where you want to share it, but also make a copy in my folders. Good best practice there. Okay, so now that we have a copy saved, I can put it in a shared location later. Let's talk a little bit about this subject area section. Let me stretch this out. So the subject area is listed here at the top, physical items, and then the data are organized into folders. That can be helpful if you know where your data are located, but I have to say that the search feature, this little, what do we call that, magnifying glass, if you pop that down, you can search for all of the fields. So if you're following my instructions, or if you're following someone else's instructions on how to build a report, there's no need to look through every folder and try to search for the one thing you want. but I do have a word of caution. So the first thing we're going to pull in, the first field, first column, is library name. Now you'll notice if I type this in, it pops up a couple of different times. So on my instructions, I've pointed out that the one we want is library name within the folder location. So on the instructions, it says location and then a little arrow, library name. So when you hover over, you have to look for, so we're in physical items subject area, and then the folder level is library unit, that's after the slash, and then the name of the field is library name. So that first one isn't the one I want. Let's see this one. So if I hover over this one, okay, so this is the one I want. It's in the physical item subject area slash folder name location, and the field I want is library name. So that's good. I'm going to drag it over and put it into my selected columns. You can also double click. And if you do it too many times and you get a duplicate, you can click on this little gear drop down and select delete. So that's easy. You can disappear it as easily as you can accidentally double click it. There are a couple other fields I want to pull in to look at some overdue items. In physical item details, I want the due back date. So let me see if that's also, if there are multiple due back date fields. No, looks like it's just, I want that one. Okay, and let's pull in the permanent call number. That's the one I want. Okay. From bibliographic details, I want the title. Let me go to bibliographic details just so you can see it the other way. So if I know that title is in bibliographic details, I can pop down that folder and scroll all the way down and then pull title in. Also, you can move these guys around. So if it pops it in someplace that you would rather see title after the call number, you can smush them around in different combinations. And let's see, I'm also going to pull in the barcode and the MMS ID. And okay, that'll get us started. Pull this on. Come on. Okay. I think that's everything that I want for now, but I do need to change just a couple of things. I want to create some filters because if I run this right now, it's going to show me everything in the collection with a due back date, its title, its MMS ID for, organized by library name. And that report could take a while to run. I don't really want that. I really only want things that have a due back date that is past. So if I click on the gear, I have some options. And the option that I use a lot is called filter. We'll be doing this a couple of times throughout this presentation. So I'm going to select filter. And then I'm going to use the operator dropdown to say is less than or equal to, and I'll just use today's date. Now keep in mind your date format in your system might be different than my date format. Today is the 18th, 20. I've done the practice. If I hadn't done the practice, I wouldn't know this, but the date format for us is month, day, year. So I'm actually going to put in a 4-digit year just to make it extra. Okay, I think that should work. Let me push OK. And you'll notice the filter pops down here. Now I can change the filter by clicking on this pencil. I can copy it if I, for whatever reason, want a duplicate. I want to make a copy and then modify it slightly. I can do that. And then there's, of course, a delete button. So if I make a mistake, decide I don't want that filter after all, I'm playing around with settings, you can get rid of the filters by clicking on that button. There's one other filter that I'd like to add. It's on library name. I just want to make this report a little bit easier to run. So I'm going to filter to just Lowinger Library, which is our main library. And I'm going to use this search button. If you don't know the value of something, Alma Analytics needs you to be very precise. And so instead of just typing and guessing and seeing if my filter actually changes my numbers, I'm going to use the search tool. Let me move this pop-up up a little bit. Come on, let go. Okay, here we go. So this is excellent. You can look at the whole list of all the options that are in that field, and then you can just pick them and use the little arrows to bring them over to the selected column, and then make sure you say okay after that to sort of seal the deal. Okay, all right. So we have due back date is filtered, library name is filtered. There's one other thing I want to do. On the MMS ID, the reason I pulled this in is it's actually just so that I have a count of how many items are there. I need the program, I need Alma Analytics to be able to count up something. And you'll notice that all of these fields have this little blue icon next to them. That means it's a dimension. It's not a metric. It's not something that can be added or subtracted. And I want to be able to add them all up at the end so that I know how many items they are. So to do that, I'm just going to change the formula on the MMS ID, and I just copied it out of my instructions. You'll notice here the change. So I'm going to use count and then parentheses distinct, and then I keep what was already in there and then close my parentheses. So let me just, let me delete this up top and say okay to that formula. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So when you have created your report and you have all of your columns in there, we've been working here in the criteria tab, and we're going to flip to the results tab to view our results, and you can toggle back and forth between those two. And luckily there's there have been improvements in the system since the migration. I've noticed it running much faster than I had been accustomed to in the last couple of days since the migration. So maybe I don't want to speak too soon, but maybe Ex Libris got something right. So I'm kind of excited about that. Pascalia, I just saw your chat. Yes, the formula is in the document. Copying from the document, but it says invalid. Okay, so Pascalia, let's go back to the criteria, and I'm going to scoop out what I have in this formula right here. Copy it. And I'm going to put that in the chat, okay? And let's see if that works for you. Okay, try to copy and paste that one in, and then let me know how that goes. All right, so back to results. So one thing I don't like about this new Alma Analytics, so they don't give you much real estate. You have to do a lot of scrolling to see things, but you can see what I have here is organized by library. So Lauinger Library, we have the barcode, the due back date, the call number, the title, and then if I scroll over, I have a count of the MMS ID. And right now, there's no total at the bottom. So I'm at the very bottom rightmost area of this spreadsheet, and I cannot see a total. So let me show you real quickly how to add a total. If you're on the results tab, which we are, and you're looking at your results, look for, there's a title up here and a pencil to edit it. You can also delete it should you want to do that. There's also a table area. We want to work in the table area. And I'm going to click on this pencil because I want to edit my table. And then it gives you this pop-up, which again, the real estate is just challenging. So you can slide this up a little bit to kind of scooch away the view of like what it will look like. It's like, okay, I will get to what it looks like, but right now I just need to change it. So we're going to work in the layout section, give us a little more space to do that. If you scroll down, right now we're just going to work with where it says table and then columns and measures. And next to columns and measures, if you click on this little sigma for totals, and say after. That's usually my first approach on trying to get things to total. And I'm going to say done. If you don't say done, it will, if you try to navigate away, it will usually yell at you and say, you know, are you sure you want to make this change? And then you'll have to go back and click it. So done. And then we're back on our results tab. And let me scroll down to the bottom right again, and it should be there. Oh, it's not there. All right, folks, let me try that one more time. Yeah. Well, I could also look at my instructions and make sure I did everything right. Okay.
Could it just be scrunched up so it's not displaying?
Yeah, I wondered that too, but oh wait, it could be. Let me try to get more rows. There it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert. Good call. So there's my total row at the very bottom. So there's 129 that meet those criteria. So the grand total row, you have to go through those extra steps to add. But if you've added a column to count things up, it's kind of nice to be able to get that, to get that count. Sometimes that's handy. The last thing I'll mention, because again, the real estate here is so scrunched, you can export the analysis to Excel. You could do it as a CSV or tab delimited, whatever you're comfortable with. And it does export very nicely. So if you're more comfortable manipulating the data in Excel, feel free to go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's see. I don't see any additional questions in the chat about this analysis. But if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. I'm just going to save this report, make sure I do that before we move on to our second example. Okay.
Yeah, this is great. So we could actually look at these and see what the titles are. We could see if there's, maybe a theme. Everyone's checked out the books on, the Japanese war or something. There's a paper.
Right. And one thing I did try to see, like, okay, well, what if you wanted to email the people with overdue items for more than a year? The physical items subject area does not have user info within it. So you would have to do some footwork you'd probably need to work in a different subject area to locate users who had overdue items, if that was your purpose. So I sort of had to, as I'm imagining how to build this report, I built a report that gives us overdue titles, but it doesn't give us a way to contact users with overdue titles. That would be in a different subject area. So just something to keep in mind. That's why the subject areas are important. Okay. Well, I'm just going to save it just to be safe, and then I'm going to get started on example number 2. So another question that Robert sort of pulled from the group was a question about how to look at most circulated items. So I worked with our access services folks to produce a report of that. So I'm going to go up again to create, and then analysis. And this one is again in physical items. And once again, I just want to save it. And I'll use the same title as before, but call it 2, say okay. Okay, and once again, I have my blank canvas. Let me see if I can remember what we need here. So I think I want to do library name again and location code. And that's library name location, not library name. What is this one? Library name, library unit. No, don't want that one. Location code. Yep. number of loans in-house and out-of-house. Not in-house is what it's called.
And I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, but maybe one of our folks do, and they could tell me, but what's the difference between in-house and not in-house? Because that seems confusing if you just look at here, like what's the difference?
Yeah, so the way we use it at main campus is, see how underneath here on the left, there's num of loans in-house, number of loans in-house. So those would be circulations that occurred because a user pulled a book off the shelf and then left it on a cart or on the side of the shelf or on a table. And we have an access services, I think it's a student worker goes around and sort of scans those as in-house use, maybe once a day. And then not in-house would be all other circulation. So if for whatever reason you wanted to know what is the highest circulating just for not in-house, you could just choose this field.
Great, thanks. That's perfect.
Sure. Okay, so we have number of loans, and I think I'm going to use last loan date. Curious about that. Let's see, I'll do call number, permanent call number, title. Yep, permanent call number, title, and then finally the item creation date. And I'm including this because otherwise it's going to give me a lot of results. It would give me everything. If I don't filter a little bit on when the item was created, I think I would end up with everything in the collection that had circulated at least once, which could take a long time to run. So I'm going to use my filtering powers again to do some limiting. So let's actually start there. So on the item creation date, I'm going to drop down this gear again and filter to, let's say, is greater than or equal to, let's see, I want to include everything that was item created after, let's say 2000, and let's just say 2000. I think that's what I did. Okay, so there pops my filter. So that's a good start. I'm going to also filter on library name again. Do my search tool once more. And again, when you do this, your options will look different than my options. So it will be running against your data. So your library branches will pop up here. So I've selected my main campus library. Okay, okay. And I also want to limit on the location of create a filter for just our main area where our books are kept, which is STX, stacks. So, and you know what, it's a long list. So you can search for, and it highlights where that code pops up. And I just want this one. So then if you click on it and then hit the arrow, you can get to it pretty quickly. So that's kind of nice. You don't have to just scroll through the whole list. Say, okay, and say, okay again. Okay, I have my 3 filters on there. That's great. Yes, I think that's everything I want to do here. Let me flip to results. See what we got. Yeah, this version of Alma Analytics is much better for trainings because we're not waiting 5 minutes for a report to load. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, so we have the number of loans in-house, not in-house. It's kind of awkwardly in the middle. See how these little tabs pop up when I hover over them? I'd like to slide this number of loans in-house, not in-house all the way over. Let me see if I can just move it. Maybe I need to move title over here. Yeah. Okay, so now, an item creation date too. Let me move that over. Okay, so now the number of loans in-house, not in-house is all the way over on the right, which is where I want it. And then if I click this down arrow, I can sort descending. There we go. Okay, so at the top of our list, given these criteria, we have culture matters, the tragedy of great power politics, and film art and introduction. By the way, I forgot to mention, let me save this first of all, saving. Let me flip back to the criteria tab. And on the criteria tab, I just felt like there was a lot of stuff on that report. I don't really need to see item creation date on the report. I just needed it to be a filter. Like I need this filter here, but I don't need it on the report. Once you create the filter at the bottom and it's hanging out in your report, you can come up here to the gear and delete the field from your selected columns, and it will disappear from your report, but the filter stays active. So that's a good way to sort of narrow down on what the report is pulling and narrow down on how intense it is visually, but you can still take advantage of it. Same with library name. If everything in the report is for one library and maybe I've labeled it that way and I know that, I can delete that field from the selected columns. And then when I click back over to results, it's a little less information. It's a little less intimidating. Yeah. Jasmine, no, not Twilight, but I did, I ran the report. I think when I first practiced it, I think I started it with books that, items that had been created after 2010, and Tina Fey's Bossy Pants was like #2. So that was very exciting for me. All right.
Oh, but I have to say the option to filter but not view is like that is like the single best thing I just learned right now, because there's so many times when it's like, oh, why is that there? And then if I copy it over, and sometimes the formatting would be weird, and it's like you couldn't delete a column because it would mess up some other column. So thank you. That is beautiful.
You're welcome. Yeah, no reason to hold on to extraneous columns once you have those filters. Any other questions or comments before we move on to our third example?
May I? I'm Leah. Sorry.
Hi, Leah. Yes, please.
I do the same report, but what I do to minimize the number of items that get populated in the report, I just give it, I filter it by the number of times it gets circulated. For example, I give a formula for more than 100 times so that it gives me only the top 10 ones.
That's great. So, so Leah, did you use, so for like number of loans in-house, not in-house,
Yeah.
you went to filter like this?
And yes.
Okay. And then which one did you say you used is?
Greater than.
Greater than
or equal, yeah.
Okay, either of those. And what value did you put in?
If I'm looking at 10 years, then I might put 100. If I'm just looking for 1 year, then I usually enter 10 times.
Great. I'm just curious. Let's go ahead and run that. See how many. I assume the report will just be shorter. So yeah, it was a little faster. I mean, I guess it's already run.
So
its
that
report,
sometimes you just need to find out the top 10 ones. So you can do this trick.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for the tip. Okay. Okay, I'm saving. Any other tips, comments, success stories as you've explored on your own? Okay, so I'm going to minimize my videos again, and let's move on to our third and most challenging example. We're going to do a little bit of math in this one, which is always fun. Okay, this is the funds expenditures one. So once again, we're going to go over to create, and analysis. And from the subject area list this time, we'll pull in funds expenditure. And again, I'm going to save. The reason I'm so careful with saving is because Alma Analytics has, I don't know so much about the new one because I've only been using it for about a week or so. But Alma Analytics had, and perhaps still has, a tendency to sign you out after a certain amount of time. And I don't want to lose my work because that's happened to me before. Anyway, fund codes, fund expenditures, and we're going to deal with our blank canvas again. And let's go ahead and add some fields. We're going to, these are all in the fund ledger. Maybe I'll just go to that folder, the fund ledger folder. Okay. And then we need fund ledger code. I think I need fund area code too. Fund ledger code, check. Fund ledger name, check. Fund type, fund ledger status, fund area code. Okay, so that's good. And we need to add some filters to these. So on fund type, I only want the allocated ones. I only want allocated fund. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my selected. Say OK, pops down as a filter. Fund ledger status, I only want active. So the gear to filter, and from filter to search. And then from search, I'll just click on active. Say OK, and then OK again. Pops into our filtered area. Let's see here. We want on fund area code, we're going to select 3, general, endowed, and grant. So fund area code, general, endowed. You can also, if you're selecting a bunch of them, you can use your control key, or I suppose on a Mac, it would be your command key, and highlight them both and then kick them over. Little shortcut. Say OK and OK again. All right. And now that I have my filters, I think I will get rid of those 3 things. I don't think we need them. So I'll just disappear those from our report. And now we're going to add our 3 metrics. So we're going to come back over here. And we want to add, let's see, in fund transactions. So again, I'll pop open this folder. Those are kind of hard to read. I think we can make it work. I guess I could scoot this over. You can expand. Sometimes you got a little flexibility if you can move around these frames a bit. Okay, we need transaction allocation amount, check. We need transaction encumbrance amount. And we need transaction expenditure amount. So all 3 of those. And this is, you'll notice now we have some different types of fields. So the blue stack, I think it's meant to be like a data stack. These are indicating dimensions. And then the ruler is indicating a metric, something that is numeric. And so those are the fields we're going to do math on. So before we do the math, though, I'm going to save because we brought in some fields and I don't want to lose them. I know these are amounts of money, and if I go to results right now, the numbers are there, but they don't look like money. and I want them to have currency symbols. I want them to have decimal points. And so you can do that by clicking on the gear, and instead of going to formula or filter, go to column properties. It's another handy tool in the menu. And I'm going to go to data format. You have to check this box to say override the default data format. And then I want it to be currency. I'll select the correct symbol for us. Negative format, I'm gonna let that be. Decimal places 2. And I would like to use 1,000 separator. Say okay. All right, and I'm gonna do that 3 times. So gear to column properties, in column properties data format, override, currency, symbol 2. And then the 3rd time, column properties, override, data format, override, currency, the symbol I want, decimal places, 1,000 separators engaged, say okay. All right, now let's go to results. Bet that already looks better. Ta-da, okay, much better. Okay, that's what I like to see. Okay, now back to the math. So you can do that from the results window. Once you're in the results, there is a way to create a new calculated measure. And it's a little hard to see, but in this row up top here, it looks, I guess it sort of looks like maybe a ruler with a plus sign, so tiny. But fortunately, when you hover over it, there's a tooltip that pops up that says new calculated measure. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And then in the Google Doc, there is a formula that I'm just going to scoop out, and it's called money available. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to call this one money available. And let's just look at the formula really quickly because it follows a pattern. It's a little hard to see because of all just the syntax of the formula sort of makes it difficult, but we can break it down. So fund transactions is the folder, the data folder. So like remember on the left subject area and there are data folders. So fund transactions is the first part, that's the folder. And then transaction allocation amount is the field. And we're subtracting the total of 2 things. And that's why there's parentheses there. So the subject area again is, the subject area isn't in there. The folder is fund transactions again, and the field is transaction expenditure amount. And we're adding the transaction encumbrance amount, which is also in the fund transactions folder. So the syntax is like, in quotes, folder name, period, in quotes, field name. And so we're adding this field transaction expenditure amount plus this field transaction encumbrance amount, put that in a parenthetical and subtracting it from transaction allocation amount. So basically what was allocated minus what was either encumbered or spent. That's what we're doing with that math there. So I'm going to say okay. And it should just pop it over on the right-hand side. Looks like it worked, but the formatting is off. We'll deal with that in a minute. Let's go ahead and add our second field. Yes, there is, yeah, Kelsey's right. Other Alma analytics users also good. When you're in here, you can click this pop-up. Let me do that again and describe what I did. So at the bottom, once you're in the new calculated measure pop-up, the very bottom, you can click this F parentheses, dot, 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 parentheses, and you can search for different formulas that you want to use. Vani built these from scratch, so I don't think there's anything in here that we'd need to use, especially since they're just simple operators. They're not too complex. But I've certainly used other things that are in that dropdown. So that's my go-to place. And then of course, yes, reaching out to the community of users. Okay, so for this next field, this one is called percentage expended. I guess it's not, I'm going to change that. It's not expended. It's allocated, or rather it's encumbered or expended. So let's just call it percentage for now. Okay, and once again, just to break down this formula, so we have the encumbrance amount plus the expenditure amount divided by the allocation amount. And so that gives us, you know, what has been either encumbered or expended as a percent of what has been allocated. And then we're multiplying it by 100 so that it turns out as a percentage. Saying okay, and that pops up there. And now we need to do some quick formatting. So real quick, let's go back to criteria. And for money available, I'm going to do the same thing, go to column properties, data format, override, currency, symbol, 2 decimal places, okay. And for percentage, column properties, data format, override. Let's go with percentage. Not going to put any decimal places there. Okay, let's see what happens. Did that work? Yep, that appears to have worked. Okay. Okay, I think that's everything for that report. And any questions before we hop over to the catalog, just to do some quick wrap up on where to find resources and where to find other reports?
This is great so far. I don't see any questions.
Okay. Well, great. Then we'll just spend a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap up. So I'm going to flip to catalog. I just saved my report. So in my folders looks, it only has items for this training because we had to clean out our folders for the migration, and I haven't migrated my folders back yet. But my folders is a good place for you to keep things safe. You can also, I don't see the icon. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you can create subfolders within your folder. I recommend that. It's a good way to stay organized. And then in the shared folders, what I wanted to point out is that, of course, you can use the instructions that I shared in that Google Doc, but you can also go into community, reports, institutions, and then scroll all the way down to Georgetown. Oops, went too fast. There's Georgetown. And I put the 3 that we used here. All Ex Libris Alma Analytics users should have access to these reports, not to Georgetown's data, but if you run the reports, you'll be running them with your data at your local institution. So if you want to grab the report and edit it, feel free to do that, but just make sure that you save your own copy so you don't overwrite these copies for anybody else, so they can stay here for a bit and people can continue to use them. So Leah asked a great question about combining 2 subject areas. We've not had great luck with that at Georgetown. I'm curious now that Alma Analytics has migrated if we'll have better luck. In fact, it's not just Georgetown, like all of us in our consortium in the WRLC have really struggled with making that a successful combo. If anyone on this call has had experience with that, it'd be great to hear from you, and maybe you could reach out to Leah and yeah, maybe by putting our heads together, we could figure it out. But I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of excellent experience with that one. It's a good question though. Any other questions or comments as we wrap up our presentation this morning?
I think we're good. Yeah, this has been
Okay.
great. I mean, the good thing is that we've seen a little bit of every different kind of combination of how to work with Alma Analytics. So a good taste of what's possible in the platform.
Yeah, I mean, I like the new. I'm glad we migrated. I like the new interface, and I guess I'm looking forward to pulling those ARL reports next month, and I'm glad that they will run faster. But also because of the migration, I need to go through and like make sure that they ran the same way that they were running before the migration. So it's always good to double check things. Well, thanks everyone for coming to the training this afternoon. And I would welcome any questions. My contact info is in that Google Doc. So feel free to reach out to me. If I don't know how to help, I'll probably know someone who does know how to help and can point you to the right person. And Robert, of course, I'm sure would be happy to also direct questions. So I hope everybody has a great afternoon, great evening. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily. We really appreciate your
Yes,
time
thank you.
and showing us
Thanks,
everything.
Emily.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a
And
pleasure.
And thank you, Robert, for organizing again.
My pleasure. Get to work with
Yeah,
Emily.
thanks,
Thank you,
Robert.
Robert.
All right, everyone take care. Thanks. Bye.
Night,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.